Alright, it's time for another episode of Roast My Runner, and guys, real quick, if you're enjoying these Roast My Runner videos, make sure you let me know in the comments because they don't really get a whole lot of views despite people always requesting, we need another Roast My Runner episode. Anyways, let's dive into it. The first 4Runner that we've got for today is Avery's. It looks like we've got a stock picture here, stockish. Okay, then we've done a bunch of work to it. So we've got the roof basket up top, a pretty cool looking spare tire carrier on the rear here. Is it hitch mounted? Looks like, yeah, it looks like a hitch mounted one. I'm kind of digging the stance. I think these wheels, I can't remember what brand these are, but with the laces out, with the letters out on the tires, it's probably not for everybody, but I kind of dig it. I think, what is this, Galactic Gray, I think? It's a good looking 4Runner. I normally am not huge on the spare tire carriers, like the trailer hitch mounted ones, but this one for some reason is kind of working for me. So heritage style grille up front with the Raptor lights. Yeah, you know how I feel about those. Some kind of an aftermarket skid plate here as well, which is nice. And obviously the front bumper, I don't think there's a winch in there yet, but it looks like there's gonna be. Looks like a pretty kind of typical suspension and wheel and tire setup. I think they're probably 285s, which used to be big and now is kind of, I still think it's a perfect tire size for these 4th gens. I'm gonna go with a 7.5 out of 10. Okay, moving on to Daryl. He's laid out a nice little before and after shot for me, make my job a little bit easier. So it started out as, it looks like just a clean, late modeled 4th gen V8. It looked good when it was stock. I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, but I feel like the factory 18-inch wheels that came on these limited 4Runners are one of the nicest looking wheels Toyota ever made. So I think I wish they weren't 18s. I wish they were 17s, but anyways, I'm a big fan. I still have mine. I used to run on the Tacoma for a little while, kind of think about putting them back on. I don't know. So the after shot here, we have more after shots to work with, of course. So it looks like, I think these are FJ Cruiser wheels, if I'm not mistaken. And I've never been like that big of a fan of them. I feel like the shape of them, how they're kind of like sunken in, it almost looks like a, I don't know, a salad bowl or something. I don't know. Here we got a rooftop tent and looks like it's a Sherpa roof rack, I believe. It does look like it's lifted now at this point. I'm not sure what the suspension setup is. He's out somewhere in the middle of nowhere. It looks like a great camping spot. Oh, this is cool. Okay, so we've got, it's still the factory bumper, but it has the winch kind of insert, I guess you could call it. I don't know what the actual term is for these, but it allows you to retain your factory looking bumper, but beefing up the center section so you can mount a winch to it and some lighting and some tow shackles and stuff like that. I really like that. I think that's a great way to go if you're trying to have like sort of like a OEM plus style of build that looks a little bit more factory than like the big, huge sheet metal bumpers. Got some is it OK Expedition, I think is the company, skid plates up front. We've got I think it's the Extreme LED light bar up top. I love that. I love having the amber ones on the corners and then the clear ones in the center. I think that's a great idea. I don't know why more light bar manufacturers aren't doing that. I feel like it should be commonplace by now. It seems like a really good idea. Yeah, Daryl, I think this is a great looking rig. It's simple, kind of stock looking, but obviously modified enough to be functional, so we'll go with an 8 out of 10. I'm feeling a little bit generous today, I guess. All right, next we have Jackson, and this first picture kind of sucks. We got the TRD Pro grill, we've got an aftermarket bumper here with the big hoop, we've got some driving lights in there, looks like some Bilstein shocks up front. I can't really see much from that one. Here's the only other picture we've got, but I was about to give you a hard time for lack of pictures here. However, I think this is a great looking 4Runner, so I can't really be hard on you. So yeah, again, we got some black housing headlights. I'm not sure what that front bumper is. What wheels are these? These are, I want to say they're Icon, but I don't think they are. There's something else. It looks so familiar. I can't put I don't know. Laces out, again, this is kind of a theme for today's Roast My Runner, is the white letters showing laces out on the tires, and I'm kind of digging it today. I don't know, I think it's different, and it's kind of old school looking, and only certain rigs can pull off this look. Everything else is kind of like all blacked out, Amish spec. We got the roof basket, not a fan. This looks like a good looking 4Runner, man. I think I'm gonna say, we're gonna give this one an 8 out of 10 as well. All right, next up we have Joe, who has a 2009 Trail Edition 4Runner, which is, from what I understand, a pretty rare vehicle. I don't think they sold very many of these things. This is the final year of the 4th gen 4Runner. They came with a locking rear differential, which no other 4th gen 4Runner came with. I'm pretty sure they were V6 only though, but it was essentially like really close to an FJ Cruiser. And it had like this weird TomTom navigation unit that clipped into the head unit. So it was weird, but cool. Just want to check real quick and see how many, like what the production numbers were like for these trail editions. I'm not sure how many there were. I don't know if I can find it easily or not. Let's see if we can find, it looks like maybe somebody on the 4Runner forums has shared this information. Let me just see here. Somewhere around 10 to 15,000 total 09s were made. Maybe 20% of that were trail editions. That's, I guess, just a guess. Do we have any actual stats? I would feel like it's safe to assume that this is a pretty rare bird that Joe has here. But anyways, can't really see anything in this picture other than we got a snorkel, we got some raptor lights. Is it shadow gray? It looks like the same color as mine. I didn't even know they made trail editions in this color, but that's pretty cool. He's got a roof rack up top. We got a whittle wada on the back here for climbing up onto the roof. Honestly, do you guys even use those ladders? Like, do they actually make it helpful to get up on the roof? They're so small and so skinny, like I don't think I'd even be able to climb up one without making a fool of myself. Not a huge fan of the wheels. It's just not really my style. They're kind of old school looking. We got a snorkel on it as well, but I mean, it's a trail edition. How cool is that? We've got a nice high clearance bumper up top. I don't know if this is this bed liner on the hood? It's textured of some sort. We got some aftermarket headlights, which are not my favorite headlights. I don't know, the more I see them, the more I think they're just not my style, but, so he's really upgraded the suspension as well. We got Dirt King lower control arms, and looks like Bilstein 6112s or something maybe, I'm not sure. We got some skid plates as well on this thing, a winch. Is this bed liner on the hood? I don't know, I think it's something. I don't know if it's a vinyl wrap or what, but, oh, let's see, this is kind of interesting. He's replaced the factory head unit, which I'm sure is considered an upgrade. I'm sure it's better than the original one, but the original one is part of what makes these trail editions special, I guess. So I don't necessarily disagree with doing that. I think you got to make it functional. You got to make it work for you, but I hope you held on to the original head unit because I think that's got to stay with the truck. I think the trim pieces in the dash here are painted or plasti dipped or something. They're like textured. Is it like an olive green or something? So there's this camping setup. Looks pretty good. Nice scenic spot. We got the canopy out. We got the rooftop tent. We got the scene lights, I guess you can call them. We got the table set up. Looks like he's on his own, just one chair. But hey man, I'm sure somebody loves you. Nothing wrong with camping by yourself. That's awesome. Yeah, this is a pretty cool setup. I'm kind of surprised at the lower ride height of the front end, knowing that it's beefed up. We saw the suspension on it, but I guess that just means that front bumper must be fairly heavy. I think I would give this an 8 out of 10 if it was any other model, but the fact that it's a trail edition and it's kind of special, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. All right, Kenneth, you're up. What do we got here? We've only got 3 pictures, so okay, looks like an earlier model, 4th gen. So this is kind of cool. I guess he's got like a two-tone setup going here where he painted the fender flares and the lower cladding and stuff. Is that an American flag on the side window on your Japanese truck? We got a Heritage grill on the older style front end, which is, a lot of people don't realize that the grills are different by like quite a bit compared to like between the early and the late model 4th gens. It's a kind of a different front end on them. It's not just like these newer ones had projector headlights and that's it. The whole front end is a little bit different. You'll notice the front bumper is different. It's got the blinkers, like the turn signals are actually down in the bumper. The shape of the grill is different. There's quite a few differences, but we got the sport hood up top here and some kind of aftermarket roof rack. Is it a Prinsu maybe? I feel like I should know what that logo is and I don't, and I'm sorry. The 5th gen wheels on here, they look good. I think I'd say that's probably a 2nd place for me in terms of my favorite non-4th gen 4Runner Toyota wheel that people put on these things next to the 5th gen TRD Pro wheels. Got a little close-up of the front bumper for some reason. I don't know why. I guess because it touched mud. And finally, we just have a 4-wheeling picture here. And yeah, I can't really see a whole lot on the setup of how this thing is built or the details. I did forget to mention the black housing headlights, which I think look good. The friend has not just a Lexus GX, but it looks like a late model Lexus GX. So that takes some guts to take one of those on the trail. I'm gonna give Kenneth a 6 out of 10. All right, next up we've got Ryan with a K. And we're starting with a POV shot at the beach. Looks like we have a huge head unit here, and okay, so I feel like I'm a little torn because I think like the really big aftermarket head units look kind of silly to me. They just look so out of place. However, you'll hear me constantly complaining about the tiny size of the factory head unit hole in the dash of these 4Runners. So I feel like if you want a decent sized screen, you have no choice but to really upgrade to one of those bigger ones that kind of look like an extra add-on, but I mean, then you get a nice big screen. So anyways, we have a lot of lights on the front of this thing. It's not for me. It's a little too much. Okay, so let me just break it down a little bit more here. So Raptor lights, no, not for me. Halos, no, not for me. I'm fine with LED headlights. I'm fine with the light bar on the bumper and the yellow tint on the fog lights. I think those are all good moves. I agree with those ones. The other ones, not so much, but to each their own. Got some poop splattered on the side of it because you've been wheeling. That's cool, good for you. Suspension shot here of, are these Bilstein 5100s, I think, maybe, judging by the sort of like the polished looking body on them. I don't know. I had 5100s on my old Jeep Grand Cherokee. They were an improvement over stock, but I wasn't like the biggest fan. I didn't think they were great, not compared to like the Fox setup that I have now, but I think for as cheap as you can get them, they're a pretty good bargain, I think, if you're looking to upgrade your suspension. Huge improvement over just doing like a spacer lift or something. And it actually looks like we've got aftermarket uniball upper control arms, which is a good move. Get your alignment back in spec. Icon rear shocks. Interesting to go with a different brand, front and rear. I can't say I've ever really understood that decision. I would have thought it'd be better to keep things balanced from the same company and hoping that it's like a system that's meant to work together, but I don't know what these kind of setups ride like, and I could be totally wrong, and I probably am wrong because people do it pretty regularly. So this looks familiar to me. I believe when I zoom in, I'm going to see, yep, it's etched Gibson on there. That means we have a Gibson catback exhaust on this, which is my favorite exhaust for these 4Runners for sure. Fellow mountain biker, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say fellow because I haven't touched mine in way too long, but yeah, it looks cool. You got the bike rack on the back. Yeah, it's just something about taking your 4Runner to the bike trails that just, it's a good feeling. I can't really tell what else is going on here. The wheels and tires are in a shadow, but it looks like a decent sized tire on here. I'm gonna give it a 6 3/4 out of 10. That's a really weird rating. Next up, we have Kyle, and it looks like Kyle is taking us through the whole story of his 4Runner because we're starting off with a stock picture, and wow, that's beautiful. That's, it looks like it just came off the showroom floor for the most part. I mean, look at, the paint looks good, the headlights look like they're brand new, it really looks, this thing must be low mileage. I don't know what the mileage is on this thing, but if this is yours, comment down below what the mileage is on this because it looks gorgeous. I really like this color as well. Okay, now we've modified it. We've got, this picture sucks, but we've got, I think, bronze TRD Pro wheels off of 5th gen. Love it. I think those are the best OEM Toyota wheel to put on these 4Runners. Aftermarket fog lights, like some cubes in here, and I like that. I think that looks great. It's a great upgrade. I don't know, I put LED bulbs in my factory fog lights, but they're not really cutting it. I think there's just nothing quite the same as running a proper aftermarket fog light. Looks like the grille has been either vinyl wrapped or maybe plastic dipped, maybe spray painted, I don't know, but it's black now. And I think the headlights are also black. This is a great looking 4Runner, man. I have to say, so far, I think this is my favorite one for this episode. We've got a roof rack with a hard shell rooftop tent up there, which is a pretty expensive purchase, man. Those things ain't cheap. Oh, come on. You were doing so good. There it is. It's an otherwise great looking 4Runner, so I can't harp on them too much for that. Another rear angle shot here. I don't know what the suspension setup is, but it looks like a decent ride height. It looks, I don't know, what are these, 275s maybe? 285? I don't know, maybe 285s. I love this color. I think this color is one of the best colors that the 4th gen was ever sold in. And this is proving my point exactly. Especially, I think I'm really digging the bronze color on the TRD Pro wheels. I think that's really making it kind of stand out to me. And we're running the smooth top look right here with no roof rack on it at all. And if you don't need a roof rack on your 4Runner, I think this is a really cheap way, because it's free $99, to make your 4Runner stand out from the rest. I think it makes it look like super sleek, and I would assume it would probably help with your fuel economy as well, so that's another bonus, but it's kind of a cool look. This color, these wheels, the black housing, factory headlights, this is a great build, a great setup. Oh, I've got an S2000 randomly. I will say it looks pretty clean. This is not a Honda review or roast video, however, I will say you got a cool looking S2000, and those are great cars, by the way. My buddy's got one. What are we looking at in the interior here, other than his skid marks on his driver's seat? Look at, okay, this angle, this picture. That is such a good looking 4Runner, man. Like, this is proof that you don't have to get one of these like late model facelifted 4Runners in order to have a super clean, classy looking 4Runner. This is a perfect example of one of these earlier models with like the flat topped fenders and the different front ends. Like, this is exactly what I would do with your 4Runner, I think. Like, I think you nailed everything on this. That's one of my favorite 4Runners on all of Roast My Runner. I don't know what we're at, like the 9th episode or something like that. Yeah, I love it. I think I'm gonna give you a 9 out of 10, and that is a high rating. I've never given anybody a 10 out of 10, and you ain't getting one either, but you're close. It's a great looking 4Runner. Spat over myself. Okay, next up we have Logan, and there's a couple of things jumping out at me right off the bat here in two different directions. So first of all, the stance of this thing looks so mean. This wheel and tire setup looks super aggressive, and yeah, it just looks like it wants to sucker punch you when you're not looking. That is a very aggressive looking stance on this thing. I love that. Yokohama, I hope that you're sponsored, or at least they're paying for like advertising space on half of your windshield. My other complaint is this kind of janky looking bumper gap here with the front bumper. I don't know if something's bent or if that can be adjusted, or maybe it's bent because you've been using it like a wheeling rig, and if that's the case, then hey man, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Things get used and abused, right? We got a winch and some recovery points up front here. It's a V8 with the front grille has been, it looks like just rattle canned or something. We got a snorkel up front. This thing looks really aggressive. Front end, of course, we got Raptor lights. It's like, if you're gonna do the American flag sticker, you gotta do Raptor lights too, because you know, if you're gonna do it, then do it. Rear shot, what do we got here? Are these the factory taillights just tinted? It looks like maybe they're tinted. Judging by the Dobinson sticker on the back window, that's the suspension that you're running, and that's cool. I think there's a lot of people switching to Dobinson stuff. Seems like they're getting great reviews, so. Are the headlights tinted? See, now that I don't like. If they're tinted with, whether it's film or spray, why would you not want your lights to be as bright as they used to be? Anyways, the rest of it looks really good. Even the snorkel, I think the snorkels aren't like the best looking items if you ask me, but I think when the rest of the vehicle is built a certain way that's kind of aggressive and you put a snorkel on it, then it makes sense and everything kind of ties in together, then I like it. So this is one of those cases. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. All right, next we got Sean Rich, who has been a longtime supporter of the Canadian Gearhead brand. Appreciate you, buddy. So Sean has two 4th Gen 4Runners. One of them is, I believe the one that's like more modified is a V6. And then I think the one that he's restoring that was crashed was a V8. Can't see a whole lot in the garage here, but Sean, dude, your pictures suck. But yeah, from what I remember, he brought this V8 one back from the dead. I think he scored it for like a smoking deal and fixed it up himself. He did all the work himself and got it back on the road. I think he already sold it. I think he sold it or traded it for like a classic Mustang or something like that. Anyway, we got the two-tone on the cladding here, the factory wheels with like the center caps painted. That's a decision, I guess. What is this? Some Molly panel? Where is it? Oh, it's the center console, it looks like. So this is the V6 4Runner that he's got. I'm trying to remember, I think he built this front bumper himself. Had it all welded up, because this doesn't look like any other bumper that I've seen on anybody else's 4Runner. It's cool, it's kind of like a low profile look. Fender liner hanging down, I think. We got to trim that up, obviously, but you're probably I'm sure you've already done it by now. The Suspension setup looks kind of tall. It looks like a fairly good sized lift on here. I don't know if he's got a body lift on here as well. I can't remember. And this is back to the V8 model again. Another shot of the two-tone that he did on it. Looks like Bilstein 5100s. Upgraded sway bar bushings? Question mark? That's cool. Well, I'm gonna give the modified V6 a 7 out of 10. And then the V8, I think I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because there's just not much done to it. The two-tone is not really my style. Kudos to you for saving one, bringing one back from the dead, because they only made so many of them. So every time you save one, you get a high five from me through the internet. Right on, Sean Rich. Good to hear from you, buddy. Glad you're doing well. Okay, we got Shane with only 3 pictures, which is good because I am running over time here. I am supposed to be putting my little guy down to bed soon, and I'm late. I'm sure he'll understand. He's a little 4Runner fan himself. Okay, we got I think it's magnetic gray, earlier 4th gen here. It's hard to tell what the suspension setup is like when it's flexing like this. I'm judging by the hood scoop. We've got a Sport Edition, which is, I'm always a fan of the Sport Editions, you know. I think that's a pretty cool model. I know the hood scoop isn't functional or anything. I think I still prefer a Limited. I think the perfect setup, by the way, just a side note, I think a Limited that you add a Sport Edition hood to is like the go-to for a 4th gen. Got some more flexing going on here, and I really can't tell much about the setup of what's going on. Looks like blacked out badges. It's definitely lifted. It definitely has aftermarket wheels and tires on it. Oh, here's a decent shot, I guess, of it parked on flat ground. And okay, it looks like it's mostly stock for the most part. We've got the Stealth light bar and the grill. I do like that. I think you did a great job with that. You know, I get a lot of people asking me how I mounted my license plate on mine with the light bar, and I'm curious how you did yours, because a lot of people that do this are coming from states where you don't have to run a front plate. So it looks like it's just screwed into the front bumper, so I guess that's an option. I can't really complain about that. I didn't want to do it on mine, so I built brackets for mine, but I got a brand new front bumper for the Tacoma, and the very first thing I did to it after it got painted was drill holes into it for the license plate. So not gonna lie, kind of regret that. Wish I didn't do that. The rest of this thing looks great. I think this is an example of proof that the 4th gen 4Runners don't need much work to them to make them cool. And I think a little altitude adjustment with the suspension improves the capability, the ride quality. It lets you run a bigger size tire, which is what we've got going on here as well. And aside from that, we've got some extra lighting up front, but everything else is pretty much stock, it looks like. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You get a 7 out of 10 because it is nice. All right, we are out of time, guys. That is 10 submissions, I believe. I have 5 more here. We are on episode 9. I think we're gonna maybe do one more episode of Roast My Runner. We're gonna round it out at 10 episodes, unless you guys can convince me otherwise. If this video gets some decent views, or if I get a lot of comments saying that I should keep this going, then maybe I'll consider it. But for now, mosquito? Did I get him? I think maybe we're winding down with Roast My Runner. So I've already got 5 submissions for the next one. We're gonna need 5 more. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you on the next video. See you.